Hey BoLS fans, AdamHarry back again, narrating another battle report for you today, but this is our very first Armada battle report, so I'm pretty excited about that. A couple things I want to point out real fast. Armada, the new game from Fantasy Flight Games, takes place in Star Wars. It's pretty awesome so far. I'm really happy with it. I like playing it a lot. It uses a different order system than X-Wing, if you're familiar with that. The rules are similar, but they're not the exact same, so keep that in mind. This game is different. It's an initiative game too, so right now the Rebels have the initiative. That's BigRed on the right playing the Rebels. GentleBen's rocking the Imperials on the left. It uses a new movement measuring device there, as you saw. It kind of twists and turns in the middle there based on the ship speed and the ship maneuverability and stuff like that. The Rebels obviously have the lighter, faster, more maneuverable fleet, whereas the Imperials have the large, big Super Star Destroyer there and a bunch of TIEs rolling in. So they're pretty tough. The Super Star Destroyers and those TIEs are super nimble, so it's a good balance there. This game is pretty fun. I'm going to get to the action here, narrating and going over some of the rules that come up as well. So first off, let me just back up a little bit. The Nebulon B went first. That's the ship right above BigRed's hands right there. That went speed 2, and it used the navigation order. And then the Super Star Destroyer went. Again, the initiative flipped over to them, so it's a kind of a I go, you go system. The Super Star Destroyer goes. It also went to speed 2, and it did the navigate order, which I'll explain here in a second. The Corellian Corvette, which is right below the Nebulon B, went speed 4 with also went the nav maneuver. So what they're doing now is the game is divided into 4 different sections for orders for the turn. So the first turn they dial in with their cup orders. So you put that in. You have to plan ahead the more cups you have. So keep that in mind. So they do their orders. Then the second thing they do is the ship movement, the big ship movement, and now they're in the small ship or fighter phase. So the fighters are moving around, and you actually shoot before you move in this game with the big ships, unlike an X-Wing. So that's reversed. So, and then the fighters, when they activate individually, they can fight, they can shoot or fight. I'm sorry, they can shoot or fly, maneuver around. So it's a move or shoot thing for them, unless you give them the order to from the big ships. Which, as a matter of fact, let me go over the orders real fast. As a big ship, you have 4 commands. You have the navigate command that lets you change your speed and increase your maneuverability by up to 1. Maneuverability, of course, is the turning and the maneuver tool. Squadron is the second command. Orders nearby squadrons to move and attack early, so you can actually use them during the ship phase instead of during the squadron phase to, again, move and attack versus move or attack. The second thing is repair. This is just an engineering command. You recover shields and hull damage, and that's based off your engineering skill on the ship. The fourth and final command you can give is concentrate fire. This increases the firepower of 1 attack, and only 1 attack. So basically you get to add an extra die of any color that you already have to the attack. So for instance, if you had 2 red and 1 blue, you could add a 3rd red or a 2nd blue to that attack, but it's only 1 attack. So that's that. There's also some tokens. If you basically can bank those commands for a slightly different, sometimes lesser effect later on. So again, the first phase in the game is the command phase, where you set those commands. If you are playing the Nebulon B, the Imperials have the Super Star Destroyer, the Nebulon B, of course, Rebels, and the Vet. The Nebulon B has 2 commands, so you basically have to plan the turn 2 ahead. The Corellian Corvette only has 1 command, so you get to do that one on the fly, but it's a smaller, lighter ship. The Super Star Destroyer, being the big ship that it is, has 3 different commands. So, 3 different turns to plan ahead. So they really have to plan ahead, being the Imperial player. Okay, so that's enough from me jibber-jabbering about the rules for right now. Let's talk about the action, what's been going on. So turn 2, this is now turn 2. You can tell the lower bottom of the screen, that little blue thing there, that's the initiative counter we're using. It's our custom BoLS one there. So it's turn 2, it's flipped to the blue initiative. I'll get to that in a second. So turn 2, the Super Star Destroyer moved up 1. The Imperials got to go first now because of the initiative swap. So Ben opted to do firepower and speed 2. So he wanted to do a concentrate fire. Unfortunately, he was out of range, so he didn't actually get to shoot. The Corellian Corvette went next for the Rebels. They did a navigation maneuver to drop their speed by 1 and use the extra click for some extra maneuverability. The Nebulon B then went for command 1, and it did the a move 1 X-Wing and it went speed 3. The X-Wing engaged a TIE squadron, and when you're engaged, that means you are within 1 range of each. You're within the first range band on the other maneuver tool, the range tool, and that means when you're engaged, neither squadron can leave combat until one of those squadrons is dead. So it's a very decisive thing. You kind of lock them in there and start dogfight. So enough of that. Okay, turn 3, on to turn 3. The initiative counter has changed. BigRed's checking range there. The Corellian Corvette is going to fire the concentrate fire attack. His anti-squadron dice, he's got 1 anti-squadron shot, but he can fire at each squadron in the firing arc. So he's got 3 squadrons in one arc and a second and a 4th squadron in the front arc as well. So he's actually going to need to shoot at 4 different squadrons. He's going to use that concentrate fire attack to roll 2 dice against one specific tie group, as you'll see here that happens, and he's going to fire. He's kind of pointing that out. He's got 4 different ties. I'm just going to go through the damage real quick. So the first tie squadron took 1 hit. The second tie squadron took 2. That was what we saw earlier. The 3rd tie squadron also took a hit, and the 4th tie squadron took an additional hit. The squad that could take 2 hits from the 2 different firing arcs actually survived. BigRed whiffed on that next attack. So there you have it. All right, so finally we get to some capital ship versus big ship combat. So the Superstar Destroyer is going to move up. It actually has a concentrate fire attack, so it's going to shoot first. Against the Nebulon B, it caused 1 hit, and that was absorbed by a shield. And then the Corellian Corvette is going to get hit 4 times, but then BigRed's going to force a reroll with the defense dice, and it's going to end up with 2 hits, basically going through on the shields and stuff like that. So some shields down for them. For the attack dice, those are a little bit different than X-Wing as well. So let me go over these real fast. First off, there's 3 different, well, obviously there's a blank too, so 4 different things you can roll. The first one is accuracy. For each accuracy icon rolled, the attacker chooses one of the defender's defense tokens, and that token cannot be used during this attack, which is very useful, and I'll get to the defense tokens here in a second. For each hit icon rolled, the defender suffers 1 damage, and for each critical icon rolled, if the attacker and defender are both ships, the defender suffers 1 damage, and the first damage cards dealt is face up. So that's for the whole attack. So it's kind of interesting. You really only deal those cards out very infrequently compared to X-Wing. So those do happen. So let me talk about the defense tokens real quick too, while the Corellian Corvette, or sorry, while the Nebulon's moving up. So for the defense tokens, there are 4 different defense tokens. These are ship-only tokens that refresh at the end of the turn, or you can burn them if they're completely exhausted. You can burn them 1 more time and they'll get discarded for the rest of the game. These 4 tokens are Redirect. This defender token allows the defender to chooses one of the hull zones adjacent to the defending hull zone, and when the defender suffers damage, it may suffer any amount of damage on the chosen zone's remaining shields before it must suffer the remaining damage on the defending hull zone. So you can basically shift damage around to adjacent zones and absorb the hit that way. Evade. This token allows for attacks that occur at long range, the defender can cancel one of those attack die. At medium range, he can choose 1 die and they have to be re-rolled, and at close range, it has no effect. So it's for those nimble ships. It's way more effective at long range. Brace. This is the defense token. It allows the damage total to reduce it by half, rounded up. So if you take 3 hits and you round it down, it becomes 2 hits instead of 3 hits. However, if it's 4 hits, it becomes 2 hits. You get the idea. The last one is Scatter. The defender cancels all attack die. None of the ships have Scatter in this, so that one doesn't come up at all, but it is a defense token, and I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention it. Speaking of things to mention real quick, if you noticed earlier that Imperial B moved and then moved back, we kind of goofed on that. Again, you fire before you move in this game, so BigRed moved back. That's the nice thing about those dials. You can do that. He moved it back, and he fired at the ties as well. The Nebulon B ended up doing 1 damage to the SSD, which shunted the damage to the port side, and then 1 damage to all of those ties in the forward arc as well. The X-Wings then managed to move in and totally destroy some ties. So I don't know if you guys saw it earlier, but the 2 X-Wings destroyed 2 tie squadrons with some pretty nice shooting from BigRed there. So the way the fighters move is they have a certain speed. So X-Wings move 3, ties move 4 using that straight die, and they can move 360. So there's no movement limitations for those guys. They can just pretty much move where they want to go as long as they're within range. Again, if they get within range band 1 though of another squadron, both of those squadrons become engaged, and they don't get married. No, they kill each other. So maybe that's marriage for some people. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. Anyway, Moving on to the actual combat, the Nebulon B, of course, magically moved back to its final position after we remembered and swapped the initiative counter, so it is now turn 4. This is a 6-turn game, so we just crossed the halfway point. The Super Star Destroyer is going to go first. He's going to shoot at the Imperial Corvette, which he's end up going to, after all of the redirects and whatnots or evades are done by BigRed. You can see him flipping the tokens on the bottom right there. After he flips all that damage dice, the Neb B is, or sorry, the Carillion Corvette is going to take 1 crit to the chin. Fortunately for the Carillion Corvette, it wasn't something like extra damage. You can see the on the bottom right there all the damage cards the Carillion's taken. So taking 2 hull damage. Doesn't have a lot of hull left, so that Carillion's in kind of a rough spot. GentleBen is now shooting up the Nebulon B. He's actually going to end up with 3 damage to the front. Spoiler, sorry about that. But after BigRed flips the tokens, defensive tokens over. Again, there are no defensive dice in this game, so that just, when you roll a hit, that's what's going to happen, and then you check, you know, any defensive effects the guys can apply to stop that. So he's only going speed 2. The Super Star Destroyer moves up, and when a big ship comes in contact with a squadron, the opposing player can then place the squadron wherever they want in base-to-base contact with the big ship. So it's kind of a cool mechanic. I like the way that FFG designed that. So it's kind of makes you play a little bit better, a little bit smarter with those squadrons, because they don't get destroyed, but they do get shifted around. So it can be beneficial, it can be bad for you. So let's just it's a cool mechanic. The Nebulon B is going to go. At the end of the day, he's basically going to strip all of the shields off of the flank of the Super Star Destroyer. That's the starboard side for those of you at home keeping track, your big naval fans there. The Nebulon B is actually going to end up in really good position in the rear arc of the Super Star Destroyer at the end of this movement. He does go through that asteroid, but it didn't do any serious damage, so that's what's going on there. The next thing that happens here is BigRed and I and Ben get into just a little bit of a debate about the line of sight rules. We wanted to make sure that we had that perfectly clear because there is a debris field in the way, and we wanted to make sure that we got that right for you folks at home. But basically what's going on here is we're drawing line of sight based on the yellow dots that are on the bases of the model. If line of sight can be drawn to another yellow dot within the firing arc, then you're good to go. However, if an obstacle blocks the way, that's the targeting point, the yellow dots. If an obstacle blocks the way, then you don't have line of sight. Or if you cross a firing arc, then you cannot hit that flank. So we just wanted to make sure that we had it all spelled out. It's on page 19 of the rules. That's the page BigRed flipped to. So we just want to make sure that we had that correct. And I'm not going to cut it out because it's our first game, and it happened. So we did spend some time going through the rules, just making sure that we had everything good to go. So now that I've bought enough time, the Carillion Corvette is going to go. He's going to shoot in the same starboard shot as well and put some more damage onto the Super Star Destroyer, punching through a couple of those hull points there. As you can see, that's what those damage things are. He looks like he got a crit as well, which ended up being just a total of two total damage, just 1 extra. The Carillion Corvette is also going to fire at the ties, and he's going to end up doing some more damage to them as well, and getting a kill as well. He's also going to speed, I think he was speed 3, so he's going to go speed 3 there, and he's going to hook around to be in the rear arc of the Super Star Destroyer. And finally, we get to the squadron phase. The ties are up first. They're going to do a point of damage to the Nebulon B and 3 points to that X-Wing squadron out of 5. The X-Wing's still around. X-Wing is going to return fire and actually take out that same squadron and then move in to engage or block. And then the other X-Wing, so the first X-Wing squad killed the tie. The second X-Wing squad is going to do 1 damage versus the Super Star Destroyer with the redirect. And then the second X-Wing on the Super Star Destroyer is also going to do 1 point of damage. So pretty hot shooting there from the X-Wings. So there you go. That's going to segue nicely right into turn 5, which is where we are now. As you can see here, it is now the Rebel turn, initiative anyway. So BigRed is meticulously planning his turn. He reveals a concentrate fire for the Nebulon B. So he's in a good spot here. Again, rear arc, determining which shots are pretty easy to take. So he rolls his dice, and he ends up doing a total of 3 damage, counting a crit, into the rear arc of the Super Star Destroyer, because he's only got, I think, a couple shields innately, and they've already blown through a bunch. So you can see at the top left of the screen, the Super Star Destroyer is sitting on 4 hull damage. It's bad times to be him. Bad day for the Empire so far. The Nebulon B then moves up at speed 2. He also takes a pop shot at another TIE squadron and takes that out as well with the Nebulon B. The Super Star Destroyer, however, is going to go, and he's going to opt for a nav option and then speed 2 as well. So he's going to shoot as well versus the Nebulon B. Again, BigRed fidgeting with the defensive tokens, as you can see there. Versus the Nebby, he's going to do a hit and a crit, but then after rerolls, it's just a crit, and it's end up a damage control, so it doesn't do anything too serious. And then against the Carillion Corvette, he's going to take a shot here. He's going to roll 2 crits, which is pretty solid. BigRed remembers he needed to reset his tokens, so he does that. He ends up using both of his evade tokens to completely ignore the attack. So while there are no defensive dice in this game, you can still do that, which is kind of cool that there are some defensive stuff to play around with. He didn't roll any accuracy tokens or dice. If BigRed had, or sorry, if GentleBen had rolled any accuracy, BigRed would have not been able to evade completely. So that's what happened there. The Super Star Destroyer is now going to move at speed 2. He's just going to move right around there. And again, when you bump a squadron with a big ship, the squadron gets placed by the opposing player. In this case, it's BigRed. So that's what happened. That's why that X-Wing is now in front of him. The Corvette's going to go, and it's actually going to opt to do a concentrate fire. Having no real targets, he's going to bank that for later. Speed 3 is just going to whip around the corner there. The X-Wing is going to go, now that he's in base-to-base contact, he's going to do one attack here from BigRed against the Super Star Destroyer, and I believe he's going to end up with 1 point of damage to a shield. And the rest of the X-Wing swarm joins in. This is something I have not seen in the game yet, so actually kudos to BigRed for being able to do that with the starting Rebel package, because honestly, like, from all my reviews, reading it, I did not expect the Rebels to be doing this well. Anyway, the Super Star Destroyer is up. It is turn 6, so final turn. This is basically, if the Imperials can survive this round, then it'll be a draw. So he's going to do a concentrate fire attack versus the Nebulon B, and he's going to manage to get 1 hit when it's all said and done, and then he's going to take some pop shots at the X-Wing. The first X-Wing is actually going to miss. The second one he's going to hit, and the third one he's going to hit. So he's trying to clear some space, try to get away from those X-Wings. He just doesn't have a lot of anti-squadron shots, though, to really kill the X-Wings, because, to be honest, they're kind of tough. After that, the Nebulon B is going to go, and he's going to concentrate fire. He's already done the crit damage in the top left. The Super Star Destroyer is basically only sitting on 2 hull points left. Or sorry, like 1 hull point left. And now the X-Wing is going to shoot, and you can see the Corvette's moving too, just for funsies. BigRed rolls his 2 dice after adjusting his X-Wing just to get a nice pretty shot here, right into the exhaust port. Rebels are good at this. Whiff. So he measures the check range one more time, and they're completely out of range. They take pictures because it's that funny. And it's a draw. So let's kick it over to BigRed for final thought. All right, BigRed, you just got in a game of Armada with GentleBen Williams. How did it go? What did you think, man?
First of all, totally cool game. It looks like, when you open the box and look at a lot of the rules mechanics, they seem vaguely similar to X-Wing, but a lot of the details are different. So while it looks like you have a game, it's set in the same universe, it's spaceships, it plays totally different. So the cool thing about it is, like, right off the bat, the sense of inertia is super good. I've been playing spaceship games for decades from all kinds of different companies, but the combination of the way the movement dial works and the commands with that weird maneuver ruler thing, there is just an amazing sense of mass. Like, the big ships, you really get that sense of, like, oh my gosh, I can't turn this thing around. Oh my god, the rebel, there's little ships behind me, what am I going to do? You get that sense of panic. At the same time, it works really well. I think both sides are really well balanced. So, I had one guy play 3 games of it, and he was like, I don't know how the Imperial side ever loses, because the rebels are just firing everything at them and they're totally ignoring it. And then I played this first game, and Captain Nita, aka GentleBen, we ended the game and he was fleeing from my entire rebel fleet, and he had he survived. It was a tie. I did not defeat him, but that ship was definitely, on fire, listing lazily to the left and having a really bad time out there with just a huge pile. So the fact that a game can go that much in both directions tells me that it's pretty well put together. So I really liked it. It was super cool. It's really early in this game's life cycle. It's just the box set is out, so we don't know. We haven't seen any. We've seen stats, but it's always different to see stats compared to actually you know, getting them on the tabletop and getting experience. But it looks like, you know, there's going to be everything from small, medium ships with lots of fighters on both sides. So I think that, you know, this game has really long legs, you know, ahead of it. I think, you know, FFG did a super good job, and really like it. So expect to see lots more Armada.
Cool.
All right. Larry already said a lot about the gameplay, and I definitely agree with, you know, 100% of it. It's I haven't played X-Wing since it's been out. I've really only been into it since Scum and Villainy came along, because there's something about that faction that really spoke to me. But, you know, the amount of time I have been playing, it's been a lot of fun, and like Larry said, it is not the same game. Armada is not the same game as X-Wing. Some of the stuff you're doing is similar. You're trying to navigate around to have the ideal firepower bands and whatnot, but really other than that, you know, everything Larry said, momentum. So what I really want to focus more on is what really intrigues me is basically just the scale of the thing. There's something about those giant ships, having things at all different sizes that is just so much more, you know, reminds me, and probably everybody who's played it, of that amazing scene in Return of the Jedi where those two huge fleets just come together and clash, and you know, you've got the tiny tiny little fighters, whether TIE or X-Wing. You got the Rebels with their medium ships, and of course they're gonna get bigger ones. And then you've got the one Star Destroyer. Just visually, there's something about it that, as much as I like X-Wing, I think Armada appeals to me more. And I think I'm probably gonna end up buying more Armada, sticking closer to Armada. Whereas, you know, a lot of people end up getting everything for X-Wing. I think I'm gonna be there with Armada. Whereas X-Wing, now that I know Armada's so much fun, I'll probably stick only to the Scum and Villainy instead of, you know, going with everything as so many people do. But definitely an enjoyable experience. I haven't picked up my copy yet, and I think I might grab it on my way home from BoLS HQ, because it was just a blast to play.
Cool.
And I'm really looking forward to the expansions coming out, because that just, you know, that's going to change it up so much more. I want to see what all the other fighter squadrons do in particular. What do the B-Wings do? How are the Y-Wings going to change things up? How are the TIE Bombers and the Advances going to change things up? Because that seems like where the box set is the most limited right now. It's just what the fighters do. Because especially on the Imperial side, I felt like that was my biggest weakness. Like the Rebels definitely have the X-Wings are really strong. The TIE Fighters, especially early, like they have a great swarm rule, but I'd never played before, so I don't really think I was prepared to use it as well as it could be done. So in addition to being curious about what the other fighters are going to be, I also need more practice with them. Yeah, kind of rambling there. But anyway, the important point was that it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to playing more of it, picking up more stuff.
Cool. Well, BoLS fans, that was another Armada Bat Rep. Hopefully we'll have more coming out. Thanks again for watching. Have a good one.
Thank you.